Good morning, grade 3 students. How is everyone? I hope you are all fine and safe. Today's date is Thursday, April 16, 2026, and today we will continue solving some questions about the lesson Anansi Learns a Lesson. So, first, let's remember what happened in the last part of the story. We read that the next day, after a turtle invited Anansi for a dinner, Anansi went to the edge of the lake, but he was very worried because he was not a good swimmer, so he started to cry. But Fish told Anansi that he could grab some heavy stones and then he would be able to sink in the water because he would be heavy enough. So Anansi did that. He grabbed two big stones and sank to reach Turtle's house. So Turtle told Anansi to drop the big stones. So when Anansi dropped the big stones, he floated to the top of the lake in a fast way. And he was very angry and sad because he realized that this invitation was a trick from Turtle and the fish. So Turtle and Fish together had a plan to trick him, and he was feeling very sad. Now let's answer these questions on page 40. I want you now to open your reading books on page 40. The first question is about paragraphs 1, 2, and 3. Why is the lake a problem for Anansi? So we should read to find the answer. The next day, Fish met Anansi at the edge of the lake. Come, Anansi, said Fish. We will swim to Turtle's house together. Anansi looked at the water. He was an awkward and clumsy swimmer. He was also very light. So Anansi asked, How will I ever get down to Turtle's house? He cried. So you can notice here, this is Anansi's problem, right? Anansi couldn't get down to Turtle's house. So this is Anansi's problem. Now how we should write the answer? As we usually do, first we cross and circle word number 1. So I start the answer from the word the. The lake is, so the lake is a problem for Anansi because he couldn't get to Turtle's house. So the lake is a problem for Anansi because he couldn't get to Turtle's house. This is the answer. How does Fish help him solve his problem? Circle Fish's solution. So we know that Fish tried to help Anansi to reach the bottom of the lake, right? So let's continue. Grab some heavy stones. Then you will be heavy enough to sink. So this is the answer. Fish told Anansi to grab some heavy stones. So Fish told Anansi to grab some stones to be heavy enough to sink in the water. The last one is about paragraph 4. Draw a box around text that helps you visualize what Anansi finds at Turtle's house. So here we should read paragraph 4 to find the answer. Anansi picked up two big stones, jumped into the lake, and sank down, down, down. At Turtle's house, Anansi saw a wonderful feast of berries. So at Turtle's house, These are the keywords. Anansi saw a wonderful feast of berries. So this is the answer. Now I want you to open page 41. So we will correct our yesterday's homework. The first question is about paragraphs 1 and 2. What problem does Anansi have when he drops the stones? So let's read. Welcome, Anansi, said Turtle. Drop those stones and help yourself. As soon as Anansi dropped the stones, he rocketed to the surface of the lake. So when Anansi dropped the stones, he moved from the bottom of the lake to the top of the lake. So he floated. So he floated to the top of the lake. Let's now underline the answer. So here, he rocketed to the surface of the lake. The next one, circle details that help you visualize how Anansi feels. So we should circle the details that helps us visualize in our mind how Anansi feels. Let's continue paragraph 2. Anansi sputtered furiously. Fish and Turtle tricked me, he cried angrily. So the first one is sputtered furiously. Furiously means angrily. And the second one, he cried angrily. Right? Now we should write how he feels. So he feels angry. The last one, what lesson does Anansi learn? So here we circle the question word, what lesson does, we start the answer from Anansi. Anansi learns, what do you think? Try to think about the answer. So Anansi learns that it doesn't feel good to be tricked, right? Because when Fish and Turtle tricked him, he cried angrily. Now we are done with the questions. Let's move to another idea. So Anansi learns a lesson is a folk tale. The genre of this story is a folk tale. A folk tale is a short story passed from parents to children in a culture. So a folk tale is a short story, not a long one, and it passed down from parents, from fathers and mothers to their kids in a specific culture. We know a lot of these stories that our grandma and grandpa told us over the years, such as Beauty and the Beast and also Layla and the Wolf. So these are stories that were passed down from parents, from our fathers and mothers and grandparents to their kids. Also, it often has illustrations that help tell the story. So it has some drawings that help us imagine the characters and the events in these stories, like we saw in Anansi Learns the Lesson. We have illustrations for Anansi, turtle, fish, also the lake. We saw the lake and we saw Turtle's house at the bottom of the lake. So these illustrations help us imagine the characters and the events in these stories. It usually also has a message or teaches a lesson. So at the end of these stories, we have something we learned. For example, in this story, we learned that we should be kind to our friends. We should treat them in a good way, because if we treated them badly, Maybe one day they will treat us the same. They will not be nice to us. So we should respect our friends. We should be kind. Also, we should not be selfish. So that's it for the folktale. So the message or the lesson is at the end of the story, and it is something that the author thinks is important. And the illustrations give more information. So now I want you to think about the lesson that Anansi learns, and Anansi learns a lesson in this story. What message do you think the author is trying to share? Take your time, try to find the answer. You can read the last page if you want. Now let's see if your answer is correct. First, we should cross and circle the question word. What message? We don't write do. You becomes I. So I think the author is trying to share. So I think the author is trying to share the idea that if you treat others badly, they might treat you the same way. So this is the lesson or the message in this story. We should treat others in a good way. We should not trick our friends. Problem and solution. A plot is what happens in the beginning, middle, and end of a story. So a plot, it tells us everything that happens from the first page to the last page in the story. It often has a problem and a solution. A problem is when a character wants something but can't get it. So when something goes wrong. And the solution, it shows how the character fixes the trouble or the problem. In our story, Anansi, at the beginning of the story, had a problem, right? What was Anansi's problem? Excellent. His problem was he didn't want to share his food with the turtle. And later, in the middle of the story, we saw that Turtle had a problem too. He was tricked by Anansi. He was very angry. A problem is when something bad happens to someone in the story. For example, let's say we are inside the class, and I asked you to copy all the answers from the board. Let's say someone discovered that he didn't have a pencil to write. So he faced a problem. He didn't have a pencil. So he asked his friend, "Do you have a pencil? I want to write." So he tried to find the solution for his problem. So, like in our story, we see that each character had a problem and they took steps to try to solve it. Now, my dear, open page 47 in the reading book. As you can see here, there is a problem. Turtle is upset at Anansi for playing a trick on him. And we should write the steps to reach the solution that solves this problem. So, let's go back to page 39. We can read that Turtle was angry that Anansi had tricked him. So this is the problem. Okay, now let's find the steps that Turtle took to solve his problem. The first step, Turtle said, "Please come to my house at the bottom of the lake for a fabulous feast." So, Turtle decided to invite Anansi. So this is the first step. Turtle invites Anansi for dinner. Then, Turtle asked the fish to help him. Right? He said, "Will you help me?" So Turtle needed the help of the fish. And we saw that Fish agreed, and together the two friends, Fish and Turtle, created a unique plan to trick Anansi. So, Turtle and Fish plan to play a trick on Anansi. So first, Turtle invites Anansi for dinner. Then Turtle and Fish together plan to play a trick on Anansi. After that, the next day, Anansi came to the edge of the lake, but he was a clumsy swimmer, so Fish told him, "Grab some heavy stones." So Fish tells Anansi to grab some heavy stones. And the last step, Turtle said, "Drop these stones and help yourself." So Turtle told Anansi to drop the stones in his house. So Turtle tells Anansi to drop the stones. This is the last step. So first, Turtle invites Anansi for dinner. Then Turtle and Fish plan to play a trick on Anansi. Then Fish tells Anansi to grab some heavy stones. And the last step, Turtle tells Anansi to drop the stones. Now for the solution. When Anansi dropped the stones, as a result, he floated to the top of the lake, right? We read that he rocketed to the surface of the lake. So he floated up to the surface of the lake and he didn't get any food to eat. So Anansi floats to the surface of the lake and doesn't get any food. So this is the solution for this problem. Now I want you to copy these answers on page 47 in the reading book. Also, I will send a photo. If you want, you can copy them from the photo, as you prefer. So I will make a quick revision for the problem and the steps for the solution using illustrations to help you understand this idea in a better way. So the problem is Turtle is upset at Anansi for playing a trick on him. So this is the problem. We saw that Turtle was very angry, right? So the first step, Turtle invites Anansi for dinner. Then Turtle and Fish play a trick on Anansi. After that, Fish tells Anansi to grab some heavy stones, and Turtle tells Anansi to drop the stones. And as a result, Anansi floats to the surface of the lake and doesn't get any food. So he was very angry and upset. That's it for the reading lesson. We are done. I hope you understand it.